Welcome, everyone, to Los Libertinos podcast. I am your host, Carlos Abelar, and this is Chingazos and Fire episode number 31. Our guest today is Imperial Wizard Mark Metz and Grand Cyclops Justin Campbell.
Oh, no.
Mark is a contributor to the Mises Institute, and he also has his own Substack called The Emergent, where he's attempting to build a culture he will not regret. Justin is a podcast producer for many shows, including this one. In addition, he hosts his own podcast show called Fact Checked, and both Mark and Justin are co-hosts of the Morning After podcast. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
I can't believe he connected our joke white supremacy Wednesday to the Mises Institute. This is
no, you got to do that,
Yeah, for real. And I got to fact check that a little bit. I've written two guest articles for the Mises.com.
Oh, that's better. That's better than nothing.
Contributor or not, but I'll take contributor.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's what it is.
Still makes you a contributor.
Yeah, you contributed, man.
Yes, contribution, sure.
So on this show, we try to do backgrounds because it's a new show, trying to build it up. So a lot of people won't know kind of who you guys are. So if you don't mind doing since it's two of you guys today, like a quick background and then kind of how you guys got together to get into some of the stuff that you guys get into. Anybody can go.
So I guess for me, I'll go first and go real quick. I grew up Republican in BFE, Kentucky, on a farm. And as I kind of came up through college and getting involved with politics and stuff and kind of seeing the way that the Republican Party operated, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And so as I got out of college, I moved a lot more towards the anarchist type of thinking. And I really always was the question everything type anyway. So the anarchist mentality really fit with me. And then as I've gotten older, I guess I've mellowed a little bit in my older age and kind of started to calm down. And I've, over the last 5-6 years, with the Trump moment and everything and looking at the political landscape, started to get a little more involved with libertarian politics and getting back into politics a little bit, which has been really fun and interesting. But with that came all of the podcasts and stuff. And somehow I managed to just stumble my way into working for, at this point, I think I work for 11 different, if you count all the shows that I do or participate in myself or produce or make clips for, or just am connected to in some manner. I think it's 11 different shows that I'm now in some capacity attached to. So that's kind of my 2-minute tour of how I got to where I am.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, let me go over my roller coaster of politics here too. I grew up in a conservative Christian home, so I mean up till my early 20s, I was repeating Mitt Romney talking points or whatever. These were my politics. Then 2016 happened. I actually kind of became disillusioned with the whole conservative movement, Republican Party, because of Trump, which is kind of weird considering how I feel about him now. Actually, I'm better now than I did then. And then I used that to foray into libertarian politics, but it was kind of the more basic libertarian types until I found the Mises Institute, Tom Woods, Dave Smith, all those guys. Eventually started calling myself an ANCAP for a while in 2020, and then all the stuff with the pandemic happened and the riots of the summer of 2020, and started listening to more of these guys who are now denigrated as the post-libertarians. And I was like, I think I kind of fit along more with these guys than I guess the Mises caucus libertarians. So I don't know what I would necessarily call myself right now. Justin says I'm a monarchist. That kind of depends on the day with me, but that's kind of where I'm at. Is I guess we don't call ourselves post-libertarians anymore, but I'm sort of kind of in that group of people, like the Pete Quinoneses of the world, Matt Erickson, folks like that.
And to be fair, I've migrated back towards referring to myself as an anarchist anarchist more so than a libertarian per se. I'm still involved with the Libertarian Party of Indiana, and I still participate in some stuff with the Mises Caucus. But for the most part, I see that as beneficial directly to my state more than anything, because we do have a really good Libertarian Party here in the state of Indiana. So that's more like my affiliation is because I see a positive possibility in this state. But like my overall politics is probably much more back towards the anarchist or even agorist type leaning.
How did you guys get together to start working together? Just through all these same networks here, or how did?
Yeah, it was kind of dumb luck. So Mark and I are in the Telegram group for Buck's show for Counterflow, and so Mark would post like different articles from his Substack and stuff, and he had the articles that were in that the Mises Institute had published, and so it was just like from reading his Substack and looking at that stuff, I happened to ask Mark if he would be interested in doing an interview one day. And then we kind of, I guess we really kind of hit it off well. And the interview kind of led to ideas of other future interviews. And then the future interviews kind of led to interacting more. And when I pitched this idea about doing a morning show, then he and a couple other guys like jumped in immediately and was like, all right, well then this is who's doing it. So it was just kind of dumb happen chance that we migrated into the same circles over and over again, and just kind of you keep bumping into the same people, and eventually you just start to spend more time talking to them and make something out of it. So it's, I mean, that's kind of how you and I have run into each other too, really, Carlos.
Yeah, through the same network and stuff like that. Does that sound about right, Mark? Yeah, right. Just you guys.
Yeah, for sure. When Justin put out the thoughts about starting a morning show, I believe my first reply was the Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence. What is her name? What is her name in the movie? I can't remember. Katniss Everdeen. Yeah. Was a gif of her doing I Volunteer as tribute, which is kind of on par for Justin and I, because our first interview together, Justin's like, I don't know what we're talking about. And we ended up start talking about like fiction books, fiction movies, and our mutual love for them. As far as I can relate to our current reality better than even, what you get out of nonfiction stuff. So that was kind of our connection there. Yeah, we've had a show with a review of the Dune movie. We've talked about different fictional movies on our morning show as well.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. So people now know what's up. Yeah, man, I like y'all's show. To me, I'm a simple man, right? So to me, it really just feels like four white vatos hanging out, talking shit. That's really what it feels like to me, man. So I always get a kick out of it, and I enjoy it. And the last time I hung out with some white vatos was sometime last year, and we brought up Buck Johnson. I was at Buck's house. Thad Russell was there. Some other guy named Billy. I think he helps Buck out on some stuff too. And my wife was there too, and we were just hanging out. And it was already late night. Everybody was already pretty buzzed out. And then the conversation kind of went towards a little not dark, but kind of about suicide amongst white people. And, my wife, she doesn't really get into a lot of conversations, but she kind of inserted herself and it's all just dudes talking. And she kind of was asking how hard is it to be white? She just, and then everybody kind of did the, oh, okay. All right. And I kind of was like, all right, cool. So she got everybody's attention. And, it went into talking about the pressure of legacy, the lack of economic opportunity, different things. But I guess in y'all show and in this, and the reason I'm asking this question is because, if I was hanging out with you guys, four of you guys, and I was there, I might ask the same way, because it's not asked a lot, because the culture and the way the narratives are always out is that it's the other way around, that the majority is the majority, the minorities are the minorities. But my question to you guys is the same question that my wife asked those other white vatos, and I would have asked you guys like, and I don't even know if it means that it has to be like white. It's hard. Is it hard to be white? It's just what yeah, I guess like what are we missing? What are people missing that don't know what it is to be white? That could be anybody. Anybody can answer that, man.
First of all, yeah, if whenever you hear someone say that white people don't have a culture, just tell them to throw on the morning after show, and there you go. As far as the question, I mean, yeah, there's definitely like an anti like white sentiment out there, especially like white males. You definitely see that. I think that what you see with like our show is people like Justin and I are gonna just mostly make fun of that or mock that sort of sentiment. And part of that's because it is funny and it's ridiculous. Another part is humor is a coping mechanism as well. I'm not saying that we have like tough lives out there, but I mean, there's something about making light of a situation that will just like naturally make it better. But like I said, it's not like we're experiencing a whole lot of tough times as a part of like the sentiment that's out there. But also, one thing I guess I don't like about this whole like victimhood culture that's like dominating society now is like I don't have kids of my own, but I don't want to go around telling my kids that they are like a step below because the system or current society or current culture like puts them behind, which is kind of what you see other groups doing. And so even if it's like more true for one group than another, and like you got this kind of like this fake or just deception out there about like what group is being discriminated against and what group is not. Like I'm not going to ever like tell my kids that because of their skin color, like they can't get ahead in life or they can't be successful or whatever, because that kind of sets them, but that in itself sets them back. Like parents telling kids that sets them back. Does that make sense? Like I'm not going to like even if there is like a sentiment out there, like I'm not going to like dwell on that. And especially if I have like a family of my own, like I'm not going to dwell on it for their sake.
And if Mark does the having kids thing right, and he has more ginger kids, then that's going to be more of a hindrance to them than being white, is the fact that they're redheaded.
This is true.
And don't have souls.
Yeah, I'm gonna have them focus on the hair part of it. But look.
So we really kind of lean into the white supremacy joke and us all being racist, because other than Mark, like everybody on our morning shows lives in the South, or like I don't live in the South currently, but if you can't tell by my accent, I'm pretty Southern. So we really kind of lean into it, and we play off of it and make fun of it more than anything, because like anybody that knows me personally knows I grew up hanging out in the hood and played football and basketball, and we always had because I did grow up in the South and we had a farm. We always had a black guy that worked on the farm with us, and his family lived there on the farm with everybody. And so I just spent my entire childhood hanging out with black people, and I've never thought about a difference. Like it just never, I don't know, it never struck me, even being from the South and actually knowing like legitimate white supremacists and like KKK members and stuff like that. Like that they were a joke. They weren't something that you actually put any credence into. So for our show, and we kid with each other and stuff, we really kind of lean into that. But like I don't know that maybe it's because I did grow up in a small river town that was where white people were actually, like in my high school, I was actually a minority, even though white people are not considered a minority. In my high school, it was about I think it was 58-42 was the split. Like we didn't have any. There was like one Hispanic family and no Asians or anything. Like it was pretty much all black and white. And if anything, like it's playing sports, it was tough as a white kid to kind of carve out a niche in athletics, because you're the white kid, especially like playing basketball. Like the baseball team was mostly white, but
Yeah, you got to be the
football
scrappy guy.
team was a good mix. But like there were only a couple of us white kids on the basketball team. Like I was ridiculously athletic, so I kind of had that going for me. But you know, that was kind of what I saw was having it being tough to
Get on the basketball team.
to really be able to participate, because at the end of the day, like you're on the court for me, I'm on the court with 4 other black guys and I don't get the ball. Like, you know, even though we're all friends outside of basketball, like when the game is going, there is a natural instinct that you I don't want to like oversimplify it, but there is a natural human instinct that you kind of group with those who are more like you. And I mean, they act like that's not a thing, but it is. Like that's legitimately a thing. Like if you're in a room with, you know, 24 people and there's a handful of people who look like you and then a whole bunch of others who don't, you're naturally more inclined that you're going to probably migrate towards those, even if it's not, even if it's not something that you consciously do. That's human behavior, and that's animalistic behavior. Like you see that across pretty much all species, that they tend to group together by like kind. And so, you know, I mean, it made sense, and that was like, for me, that's the thing that I had to overcome as a kid. But you know, and I didn't have any economic hardship that my friends who lived in the hood had. But
do you remember maybe the first time that you felt like racism towards you? Like, you know, from the, like, you know, like, do you have like as a kid, like, oh man, like they made fun of me because I was white, or then, you know, do you have a story like that or anything like that you remember?
I mean, I would say Justin probably could kind of hit on it too. Is like, I mean, I've walked into basketball courts before too, where everyone playing is black, and they see me walk in, they're like, "Yeah, we're picking that dude last."
And Mark doesn't have the advantage of being 6'5".
Yeah, I'm also 5'9", so.
All right. Okay. Cool. And then maybe so I mean, why are more white people killing themselves? Because they can't get on the basketball court, or what? What's going on here? Do we need to have, like, what's going on here? Now, I know I'm joking, but I know there's something about that. And I think it is even connected more to, I was reading a little bit, man, just because of the, like, more rule and all this stuff. I mean, there's something going on, right? I don't know, man. I mean, you guys tell me.
I mean, as far as like I kind of relate this to the transgender movement. Like you see a lot of, like, most girls, I guess, who transition to, or are in transition to becoming like boys or whatever, like they're mostly white. And I can't remember, there's a book about this. I don't remember the author's name. It's a woman, she's been on Joe Rogan, but she talks about how, like, since there is like this hierarchy of victims, like obviously white girls, like white teenage girls are like way down on that list. And as a way of being able to like fit in or feel like they're fitting in with society, in order to they have to become a victim. So what better way than to say, well, I feel like a boy, so I'm going to transition to being a boy. And I think that's definitely a part of it, because you see obviously higher rates of suicide among like the transgender community. So that could be a part as well. And then as far as like men or boys, like what I hit on earlier, like there is sort of this society's kind of like out to get white males. Like we can't, like if we try to hit up a girl, like we're catcalling them, we're chauvinists or whatever. Or so then you got males like afraid to talk to women now, and of course if you don't have that male female like partnership, I mean that results in like depression in males like pretty quickly. So I think these are factors that play into that.
So let me throw the question back a little bit on the suicide rates. Is that a higher rate per capita or total number of white people who are committing suicide versus other ethnicities?
Oh man, I gotta have it in front of me, but it was kind of like that. It was like 70% of it, but was of the I guess it was like 1.3 million people were.
See, I
that-
kind of look at that similar to like murder rates and crime rates and stuff like that. Like, or for instance, one of the things that anytime police shootings gets brought up, that some people, I'm just going to leave it at some people, will bring up is that more white people are killed annually by the police than other ethnicities. But it would, like, what you have to do, see, I'm a stats guy, so like the numbers are kind of where I live on this stuff. What you have to do is you have to separate like per capita from just total numbers. So like obviously because of the demographical differences in the US, there are more white people than there are Black people, Mexicans, Asians, so on and so forth. So naturally, statistically, there are going to be more white people who are shot. So I kind of look at the suicide rate thing in the same way. Like if we're just talking about raw numbers, just the total numbers, obviously that makes sense that more white people are going to be committing suicide because there are more white people to count. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no,
like
yeah.
I would have to see a breakdown of like.
Yeah, I was trying to look up the article real quick, but there. Well, anyway, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but it says
right, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't doubt that at all. I don't, even if you broke it out like per million, I'm sure that there are more white people who are committing suicide per million than there are any of the other demographics, and that's, I think that is a symptom of we have become soft, and
this is true.
I think progressivism has made the middle and upper middle class white person exceptionally soft, like because you're scared to ever do anything that might offend anybody. So if you're,
when you say progressivism, does that also mean any type, like it's political, I know, but there's also like economic progressives, like people are wealthier, so they're soft, and also the ways of like a different type of
as well.
Okay, so all of it, like
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so both the social and the economic side of progressivism, it has created a soft middle to upper middle class white person, in that you tiptoe through life because you don't ever want to offend anybody. You have been like, maybe not so much for me, like I know I didn't have it as bad as the kids who lived in the hood, but I grew up thinking that we were poor. Like I never knew that we actually had money. And if you went to our farm today, you would not know that my parents have money. Like that's not the way we were raised. But like for a lot of white society, especially the middle and upper middle class, they've been raised thinking that they do have this like huge advantage over everybody else. And so they tiptoe through life and they're scared to do anything. They're scared to be successful, because they think if they're successful, that it perpetuates this systematic racism that, I don't want to say that it doesn't exist. I absolutely know that it exists, but it doesn't exist to the extent that it's played up by the media to exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing you out. Yeah, I mean, I don't talk to a lot of white people, but that's why I'm asking you guys all these questions. What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, so like I always think it's like unfair that there can't be like, that there isn't mainstream white comedians that can just make fun of everybody like the way Chappelle does, like super mainstream, like that sucks. Like it should be, to me, like the comedy show and how the comedy is played out in society, it says a lot. So that's why I dig y'all's show, because I know what you guys are doing in y'all's show, and I like that kind of stuff. It's funny, so, but yeah, it's fucked up. So, I'm not looking at numbers or whatever. I'm not on the streets like that. But I can see a comedy show and just be like, hey, why isn't there a white guy just talking all kinds of shit about, no, because he's going to get canceled out, right? He's going to, he can't do that. But if it was the other way around, like, so I'm not defending, I'm not defending, I'm defending like fairness, like, hey, everybody should be made fun of, and everybody should be able to talk shit. And that, that sucks, it sucks. I don't like that. You don't, I mean, I want to hear all the racist jokes that you guys want to make about us. I want to hear all that shit, man. That shit's funny, So anyway, but yeah, what do you think, Mark?
No, no, I agree with you, man. That's funny. I was just gonna make a note earlier. That author's name is Abigail Schreier, and her book was Irreversible Damage. But as far as like fairness or whatever, like I don't necessarily disagree with you, but on the other hand, it's like I can't stand people going around like screaming this isn't fair, or my group is behind because of this certain thing, whatever. So I'm just gonna live my life as if there is like we're all on firm ground, even though I mean that's not true of anybody, but I think that would be the best for me. And if I had a family of my own, for them as well.
Yeah, fair enough. And that leads into like the next question, kind of that hey, what's up, everyone? Visit buenterprises.com. BU is a company that helps you with relaxation, stretches, and breathing techniques that you can implement in your daily life. I have been using them for over 3 months now. And even though with the holidays that just passed, some of my classes I was not able to make due to a lot of not having enough time to do it. Whatever I had learned in previous sessions, I was still able to do them throughout the Christmas and New Year's break. And I still feel very good. One of the main stretches that I use is in my truck when I'm at a stop sign. That's been a game changer to be able to do some of my shoulder rolls and some of my lower back stretches. And I learned those at buenterprises.com. So if that is something that sounds appealing to you, where you want to try to have a customized program for your daily life, visit buenterprises.com, sign up for one of their programs. Be sure to use the promo code Chingazos, in all caps, CHINGASOS, Chingazos, for 20% off of your purchase. Once you sign up, use them, email me, let me know how it's going. We can exchange some tips. I want to know how you guys are doing. So please visit buenterprises.com and use the promo code Chingazos, all caps. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace. So, well, you might not know, but I was a Ron Paul guy too, so I got in the same way. And before the Ron Paul stuff, I was like a Bill Maher guy. I would watch Bill Maher stuff on HBO. That was my shit. And, that's just the way I knew my politics and stuff. But lately it feels like, and maybe with how, we described them as like the post-libertarian or some of that stuff, or with Pete and all that kind of those guys, it's been that, it's like, and even so, I was reading some of your work, like it's like the building of cultures. And I like that because it's maybe as I'm getting older too, it's focusing your limited time and energy towards something that you can that really is yours to build on, or to interact with it, because the federal state for sure is on autopilot. I mean, good luck even trying to do something with that. And maybe the state level and local, as you get more local, yeah, you're able to do more stuff to it. But can you guys paint a picture of how either big or small, or what kind of mechanisms would be in your culture that you're envisioning for yourselves? Because when I say big, I mean, because I always also think too, like when people, and you do this a little bit, Mark, I think, and it's okay, man, like in your writing where you like the left, or like that seems to, I know that there's the left culture, but it seems too big. It seems too like you can't grab it. But that's just me, the way that I kind of see it. Like, so that when I ask about how big of a culture do you want, like you can't really do too much about people that think left. There's too many. Like, what are you gonna? They're way, like they're out there, but what are you gonna do? So like, I guess like paint a picture of y'all's culture that you guys are trying to create. amongst like whether it's a community of this many people or this like and I'm asking that too because I'm in the process of trying to build a culture with my football stadium in that there's going to be people that are going to come over, and those people I'm going to want them to be family people. I'm not going to just invite people that are going to be people that are going to mess up the culture that I'm trying to have here, and sports is going to play a big part in it and all that. And white people, you guys are invited, okay? No, there's no if you can play, you get on the field, and so the question is mostly just to be like more of a vision of a culture that you're envisioning. You could talk about it with it, the color of it or the justice system inside of it. However, just freestyle the kind of cultures that you envision for yourself and your families and stuff like that.
So my sole experience with soccer was, because I know what kind of stadium you're shooting for, or football.
Oh, it's not that kind of football?
Not that kind of football. My sole experience with that landed me in the hospital for 3 days with a collapsed lung. So I will probably sit that out and just do the grilling, but I will absolutely come and cheer everybody who's playing on. But go, yeah, Mark, I'm going to let you go ahead and feel this one first, but it almost sounds like Carlos is leaning a little Hoppian, didn't it?
It did a little bit, yeah. Yeah, when you're talking about like cultures and community, like small communities, like I did kind of go over this, or like Pete's gone over this quite a bit, and he talks about the 10,000 Liechtensteins. And so what that kind of means is you have many different communities, Hoppian covenants, like within this large landmass that is the United States. Because obviously we have a very, very large country and we have various cultures around. I don't know like what, and the way that Hoppe paints it is he kind of like talks about a beautiful mosaic where you have people of like mind, or people who like to associate with each other, kind of grouping together and building their own little community. But then you have another community that's like right next to it that is also full of people who of like mind and who want to associate each other, who are different from that other one. But when like looked or viewed from afar, like you've got a beautiful like mosaic of various cultures put together.
And this mosaic can play on a big city scale. I mean, like, so sometimes when I hear the talk, it sounds like I guess I envision, and hearing you say it that way gives me a different way of looking at it, is that, so like, I'm not going to invite these people. Like they live. I don't even know where they fucking live. They're just going to come over to my house to come play the game that they're passionate about. But we're coming together. But sometimes when I hear the talk, it seems like you have to actually get a community of like a neighborhood or a big enough, like where you're actually close enough to, because you know this stuff too, where you guys talking about expelling people from the community. And I always think like, I don't know. I mean, I get it, but it just the same way that we sometimes might talk shit about, like they're talking about libertarian stuff that they got no power, they got none of that. Sometimes that to me sounds the same, but like, what, like, that ain't gonna ever happen. Like, what, it could happen in a small family community. Because I'm trying to get the vision of what you guys think of community for you, like y'all's like idea, like, I would like, if you say, I want to live in a community of 50, 20 families or this, or like, what is y'all's vision of this community or whatever you guys think? Sorry for interrupting a little bit. No,
you're good. That's cool. No, I guess like, obviously this isn't like what we have set up right now. It's just something that it seems more feasible for the future than what like complete anarchy would look like, or this is what anarchy would look like as far as like anarchy goes. But as for the community that I want to live in, like I said, I don't have like a specific number per se, but like this isn't something that could be accomplished where I'm at, and like I'm in a city right now. But if I were to move to like a more small like rural community, of course, like different people from different like communities are, you can cross lines and all this stuff. But let's just say in this community, I have like-minded people, and I prefer like a more ordered society. And this doesn't mean like order as far as militarizing the police or like putting a policeman on every block or anything like that. Like the best way to build order is to actually create a more like, I guess, a culture of like understood values. So if I were to build like my own community And if I wanted to create this order, I would probably do like there would be something understood as far as like the people who live here believe that there are only two sexes. Like I keep going back to this, I keep going to the transgender thing. I don't know why, but like this is like a big thing to me because I think that when you have like this sort of confusion as far as what constitutes a man and a woman, and you got teenagers thinking girls thinking that they're boys and teenage boys thinking they're girls, like that sows chaos, and chaos kind of like breeds like more chaos within not just the home that like these teenagers or these adults live, but with their neighbors as well. So then it's just kind of like this multiplying effect to where your community loses its order because they no longer agree upon what constitutes a man and a woman. And then that kind of spreads out exponentially, like you might say a virus would. And then you kind of lose that inward order that you had within your small community, and it turns into chaos. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you. I would disagree that particular one, that is the one that you know is that like
you mean
know,
like the issue of transgenders?
yeah, like that it has that much weight on causing chaos in the community. But maybe, I mean, it's not something I think about. I know like there's communities here in San Antonio, they have their areas, they different,
Mhm.
but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I was gonna say with that, like kind of what I think of with that, and kind of like the mosaic that Mark was talking about. Like think of like old, really old school New York, like when it was, Ellis Island.
Gangs of New York style, or which the older than that?
To an extent, but yeah, okay. like Ellis Island, and it being the place where everybody came to. So you had I don't think boroughs is the right word, but you had like all of these very distinct communities. You had Chinatown, you had a very robust Jewish community, you had a very robust Irish community, Russian, Polish. Like you had all of these people in this one place together, and they all kind of had their own part of town that they had, but they also, like, yes, there were fights and there were gangs and there were all of that stuff that kind of comes with the territory of conflict that you have between different groups, especially when you consider that some of those groups migrated from places in the world that brought conflict here. Like the conflict didn't start with them in New York. The conflict came with them. But you had all these different groups that occupied the same city, and they each had their piece of it, but at the same time, they were all what made it. And now that we've forcibly created
what does made it mean to you? When you say made it, I mean, what is, I mean, I heard you, I'm hearing you say it, but what I don't want to also let you off the hook that what does that mean?
So
I
these
mean,
very distinct groups occupying their own very distinct piece of territory, they serve a purpose in what made the city great, what made it work, what kind of created the flow that was like New York at its absolute apex. Because I don't think anything in the 20th century is New York at its apex. I think it's this like forced melting pot that, if the last 40 years of crime rates has shown, has kind of been a failed experiment. But when all of those groups are able to do what they do well, and they're able to do that in coordination with the other groups in that area, it creates that's the community. Like that's the culture that I think of. Is my group here in our neighborhood, we all have gardens and we all have dogs and we all do all of this more agorist type stuff. Our neighbors in the little subdivision right across the ditch from us, they're all the real hoity-toity, well-to-do state policemen and retired professors, and like they're the more, intellectual type class, and they buy our eggs, and they buy our and they buy our gardening stuff, and like they invite us to dinner parties and stuff. And like we don't do the same things, but we have good interaction. And that's what made all of those different groups within, New York of the 1800s really great, was that it was all of these different groups that did their own thing, but they also did things together to create a culture and a community that was New York at that time.
But you're not against because like sometimes those different groups and they intermarry, right? People fall in love, right? I mean, right? I mean, there's no, and then that's how that starts. That's how some of the heat starts coming up on that melting pot, is that people, people are attracted to other people and they go smash and they get, and then they get married and shit, man. That's the way that happens a lot, right? I mean, that's
I'm
not forced.
Opposed to the intermingling of the groups. It's when it's forced. Like that's what you see with modern.
Well, then you guys help me out, because really I'm asking these questions like sincerely. Like when you say force, what do you mean force? Like how go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
I might have an answer to this.
Just so I know,
What's that?
No, just so I know, because
Oh, good questions. Immediately after the Civil War, the war between the states for some people, there was like Reconstruction hadn't like amped up to like a certain degree, like immediately following. So you have like writers talking about how, I wish I had this book in front of me, like the relations between whites and blacks in the South obviously weren't like perfect, but they weren't as bad as they would become like just even 10 years later when Reconstruction amped up. So when you have the Yankees come down from the North and start amping up Reconstruction, before that happened, like the amount of people like lynched in the South, it was like the same kind of percentage for whites and blacks. The Yankees come down and they try to, quote, civilize these freed blacks. What they were really doing instead of civilizing them was trying to turn them into Northerners, which there was already this sort of tension, this conflict between Southerners and Northerners. And you have Northerners trying to turn Southern blacks into more of like a Northern mindset. And this actually created a further divide between the South, or between the whites and the blacks in the South, than what was initially there, even immediately following the freeing of the slaves. And the sort of force thing that Justin's talking about is that Reconstruction coming down from the North after the North defeated the South in the Civil War.
And then that is carried on into modern day, like housing policy and stuff. Like there is, it sounds like the wrong word to use, but it's really the right word to use. There's a forced integration of like changing zoning in different cities and stuff, where that you have certain housing that becomes low income housing in the middle of like what would otherwise be upper middle class areas. And so it's in every situation where that is being tried. And I'm not saying that I particularly disagree with the idea behind it. Like it's trying to create some sort of inequality, but you can't create that. Like that's not something that you can manufacture. That has to be the natural integration of the groups. So like you were talking about, the intermingling, and people are gonna marry between groups and stuff. And that has to happen naturally. It can't be this forced thing where you just say, okay, now we're going to put this as low income housing in the middle of a upper class neighborhood. Well, that's in every situation that's been tried, it has been an abject failure. And that's why you see what New York is today, what Chicago is today. Like there has to be a natural, organic way that society moves in that direction. And what we have done, or what the government has done, especially in a lot of these more progressive cities, and when I say progressive, what I really mean is Democrat-controlled leftist cities, is they have tried to force that to be the thing before it was ready to be the thing. And so then it puts everybody who's being placed in these low-income housing situations or areas, they're now looked down upon. And then everybody who's surrounding that, now they're looking to get out. And it's not,
Well,
you
yeah, I
can't,
had,
you can't have a forced integration like that. Like, it has to, over time, it happens naturally. There was, and now I'm wishing I had a book in front of me. There is actually evidence that, like, even in the South, leading up to the Civil War.
see, because I don't read books, man. So I'm just talking like the way I would talk, like normal. So, but I have interviewed people. So that's what they call white flight, right? People just keep on going out and out and out. Okay, but
yeah,
you know,
Atlanta is a good example of that.
Okay, and you said like forced, like that it would happen naturally. So what you're kind of like what I was envisioning when you were talking was that because there was like forced like housing, right? Like over here it's housing, right? So they'll try to do like housing and then everybody gets upset, when everybody's a people that whoever lived there, it's all different people, but it's probably a majority of type of color, right? That's doing that. Okay, no big deal. But you're saying that they would have not have normally fallen in love, these people because they would have not normally have interacted, but what naturally they would have interacted later on, like when you kind of say it like see, like so when they're forced in there or when they're placed there or like they're subsidized to live there, and then some people fall in love. Is that what you mean by forced melting pot?
So there was evidence. Like I said, I wish I had the book. There was evidence that.
No, but what do you see? What do you think? What do you believe? Like, what do you think? Like, you could say like, yeah, they might have fallen in love 100 years from now, but they did 10 years or they did 50 years earlier because, the state put them here. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm at,
See,
I mean,
they may have 50 years earlier because of that forced integration, but at the same time, the level of conflict that was created by that, does that offset the progress that's made there? That's what you have to kind of weigh. So what I was getting at was like, there is evidence that slavery was on its way out in the South anyway. Like, that was happening. But the whole Civil War thing, like, it artificially forced the issue that would have played itself out naturally and just been done with, and could have been done with peacefully and without any of the bullshit. But because the issue got pressed, then it became what it became. So, like, nature has a way of kind of taking care of itself. It's like the natural park policy that and the environmental policy that the government has. Like, a lot of the way that the U.S. government cares for natural parks and stuff like that, national parks and stuff like that, it's counterintuitive to the way nature actually takes care of itself. So, like, with the wildfires that you see in California and other environmental issues that are happening, those are artificially created because of bad government policy that actually forgoes the natural development of the world. So that's what I see. Like, I see this as the same thing. Like, this is forcing something that isn't ready to happen, that would naturally come about if you just leave it alone. Like, integration and stuff like that happens on its own. That's shown historically throughout the rise and fall of civilizations, is that sort of thing takes place over and over again. But if you start artificially forcing it to happen ahead of its predetermined time or whatever, then you create these extra conflicts that put us in the situation that we're in now, where you have people that are always at each other's throats because they're not ready to be in these positions. Is that?
I'm hearing you, man. Yeah, I'm hearing you. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah. Even if you you look at the TV screen right now, and they'll tell you, anybody on the screen will tell you that like black and white relations are worse in the South than they are in the North. Part of the reasons that they give is because it's more sectionalized in the South. They got, the whites doing their things, the blacks doing their things, and they're more segregated naturally now, right? And there's not as much intermingling or integration. But then you just look at a state like Mississippi, which is 33% black, and you go up to Seattle, which everybody in the city of Seattle probably has a BLM flag hanging in their window, and that's 3% Black. So, I mean, what does that, I mean, I know not everybody can move, but that kind of tells you that maybe there is this, as Justin was talking about earlier, there is this sort of like natural inclination for in-group preference, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not to say that the South is completely still segregated, right? Because, I mean, what's huge in the South, bigger than anywhere else, is football. And you got mostly Black athletes playing out there on the field, and these white fans in the stands absolutely like glorify these people. So it's not like it's not as divisive, even though maybe it might be more sectionalized. Like maybe that actually creates like a healthier relationship between these groups.
Yeah. What I had told you guys about, like, if you remember your first racist story, I'll tell you mine real quick. I think it's kind of funny. I think you guys are gonna get a laugh out of it. It was funny. So I don't know what grade it was. It was either third or fourth or fifth grade, but they were doing like the Rosa Parks, the bus, like doing the bus thing.
Mhm.
And they were asking like people like, oh, who wants to be the, and me, because I was a class clown. I didn't give a fuck. I was just like, whatever. Like I don't mind the lights, I guess, or whatever the fuck. So, but I didn't know at the time what it was going on, what it was. And they were like, so there was this one white girl, she was playing Rosa Parks, right? And then they needed to get the bus driver guy, and nobody wanted to be the bus driver. And the darkest kid in class becomes the bus driver, right? So we do the whole row, the whole shit, right? Like, there's lines you're reading or whatever the fuck you do them. And then I remember like the next day, they were like laughing at me, right? They're like some older kids were laughing at me. Like, why the fuck are they laughing at me? And they're like, because man, you're the white racist one, and you're the darkest motherfucker. Like, they're just making fun of me. And I was like, I didn't even think in those terms, it was just, so it wasn't like evil, but I never forgot about it. How, nobody like the class wasn't moving forward. Somebody had to play the bus driver. I guess he was white, but I didn't care. I was just like, oh, I didn't even think about my own color, man. But it was just it's a funny story that I always thought it was kind of funny that, somebody had to play the white bus driver on those stories, and I don't know. So that's what I was kind of thinking about. But what's up, everyone? Please visit palomaverdecbd.com for all of your CBD needs. If you need anything to take the edge off during the day, to help you sleep at night, or just with a little bit of body aches and pains that you might have, Paloma Verde CBD carries all types of CBD products that can help you on that front. I use it basically in the morning. I put some tincture drops in my morning juice, whether it's a green juice or orange juice. I put it in my drink. And then I also use it in the evenings to help me wind down, to help me get into sleep. And also, I take some of the gummies an hour before I know that I'm going to do an interview. I feel that it helps me just relax a little bit and focus on the task at hand of trying to make myself sound smarter than I am. So if that is something that sounds like it's appealing to you, please visit palomaverdecbd.com. Use the promo code Chingazos. That is CHINGASOS, Chingazos, and get 25% off anything over $75, free shipping. Once again, visit palomaverdecbd.com. It is a business that my wife and I run, and we are very proud of it. And we want to try to help any of you that are looking for some relief. So once again, visit palomaverdecbd.com and get your CBD products. Gracias. Yeah. So, Justin, so you're a parent, and Mark, you were saying that, obviously, like, you want to become a parent one day. And, to me, during all the COVID stuff that was going on, I purposely, at least, I live in San Antonio, so it's like a big city or whatever. But so it had the shutdowns, it had all that stuff. And I purposely tried to say like that the shutdown was going to give an advantage to my daughter to be able to build skills like social skills, because we never stop going to restaurants, going things to different things like that. So how important is it, like, to, this goes to, for Mark, as you want to become a parent, or just like, how important is parenting in this age of where like all this authoritism is just everywhere, where, that you can still use it as a way to, I wouldn't say so. Even this goes to a little bit of what you guys were talking about, victimhood. Like, I don't use victimhood as a way to perpetuate some momentum behind you, but you could definitely paint an underdog narrative in all aspects of all kinds of, it happens in sports, it happens in this. So, how important is it about being a parent and having those skills? Because I wasn't taught those skills. I don't know, you become a parent, I guess you just try to figure out the best, you adjust to whatever the situation is, and you try your best. So the question is, like, how important is it to be a good parent in these times,
Yeah, I'll let the parent go first here.
So, we were talking about the soft middle and upper middle class white kids. Even though my stepdaughter is mixed, my kids are definitely like the soft kids, and so I've tried to toughen them up to some extent, because like I grew up thinking that we were poor, even though in hindsight I now know that we weren't. Like I never knew that. And so my kids have never not thought that anything that they wanted or needed was going to just be magically provided. So I've tried to invoke a little more of the underdog type thing, like try to push stuff on them that they're not going to want to do, or they're not going to like to do, just because like you need to lose at some point in life. Like losing teaches a valuable lesson. And like we joke about my parenting style, and I am a little bit rough around the edges, and it's deliberate, because I do think that in our modern society, these kids need to be bullied a little bit, and they need to learn how to lose, and they need to learn that like you're not going to just magically get everything that you want whenever you want it. And I think especially in like post lockdown, still hopefully on the tail end of COVID society, when you're seeing if you've watched Buck's episode with Mark McDonald, and he talks about like young kids who he treats as a psychologist or a psychiatrist, however that the proper terminology for his profession is. He talks about like the mental anguish that these kids are going through, and how depressed and suicidal and everything that they are, because they're not getting the proper social interactions that they need. They're not being challenged. They're being brought up in this just like fear-riddled world. I think kids need to be pushed a little bit, and they need to feel the humor of the situation, and they need to not just live in a doom and gloom type thing. Like they need to learn how to lose, and they need to learn how to have fun, and you need to be a bad parent to some extent, and you need to push your kids and like get them out of their comfort zones, because otherwise they become these miserable, depressed little fucks that are not going to be successful when they grow up. Like if I hadn't gotten my ass kicked for being just because I was the tall, skinny, nerdy kid, I don't know if I grew up to be who I am today. Like that definitely added a level of toughness to me. You get punched in the back of the head a few times and called a nerd, and you toughen up. Like or like I did, you co-opt the bully as your best friend, and then you turn him loose on the people who would otherwise bully you. Like you learn to survive. and kids these days are not getting that experience. Their these fucking helicopter parents take care of all their problems for them. I don't take care of anything for my kids. I've told my son straight up, if you want to fail every class you've got, I don't give a shit. That's on you. We'll sit here and we'll do 8th grade again next year, and you can try it again. But I'm not doing your homework for you. I'm not going to give you any answers, and I'm not going to baby you. You need to learn how to be successful on your own. And unfortunately, in the society that we live in, that is not I would be viewed as a bad parent. DCS is probably going to come knocking on my door as soon as we release this, because I'm obviously a terrible parent. And if my ex ever hears this, I mean, not that she doesn't already know that this is the way this is my parenting style, but like, it's not a popular thing, but that's the way that more of these kids need to be raised, because we are completely, and this is across the board. I mean, my mom was a preschool teacher for years, and even in my hometown, that is a majority African-American community, those kids that would come through her preschool classes were every bit as bad as my kids were 4 or 5 years ago. Like, they are pampered, they are babied, and they have never been told no. And that is doing a disservice to our children.
Mark?
Yeah, I do have some experience working with kids. And I was kind of I worked in a facility that like kids who came from experiences of like abuse and neglect were placed into this residential home by the state. So I was kind of known as the dictator staff for a while, because like Justin, I was kind of really structured, and I kind of came on with a hard edge for a while, because I just wanted to be able to, I mean, the first thing these kids needed was a safe environment. And if you let them run the quote asylum, then it was just complete chaos all around. But at the same time, while I did have, I guess, like strict like structure or order or rules, like there are other staff who were like not like that, but more strict in like weird ways, as far as kids in the room needing to be cleaned to like this exact point system that we had. Like there was this paper, and it was like, well, this had to be, your bed had to look exactly like this, your closet had to look exactly like this, your toys had to be here. And it's like, I don't really, as long as the room looks pretty tidy, like that's fine with me. Because I think that there's a sort of ownership with kids in like maybe their own space. Like I don't want the room to be completely crappy and there are banana peels everywhere. But I think, I can't, like, I feel dumb saying this as a non-parent, but as someone who's kind of dealt with kids before, there are different ways in which to be like structured with your kids, and you got to pick and choose these battles. And there were times when like non-negotiables for me were, if like one kid attacks another kid, like that kid didn't do anything to him or whatever, like that's like not okay at all, and I'm going to intervene in that situation. Or if one of the kids was like super disrespectful to another staff, like that's a non-negotiable. But if a kid gets mad and like a board game and stomps off and like sits in the corner for a while, it's like, and I'm talking to him later, he's like, I probably shouldn't get mad. I'd be like, well, it's good for people to get their blood pressure rolling a little bit. That means you still have feelings. So kind of like this balance between like creating an environment for your kids where they do follow like I guess the person who's in authority, like their structure and the rules, but also giving them the freedom to have their own like space, or giving them the freedom to experience their own emotions, as long as they don't like take them out on someone else. Like unless they're taking them out on someone else because someone else is bullying them, then that might be fine in my eyes. But you know what I'm saying.
So like Mark and I talked about management styles on the morning show the other day, and I kind of view parenting in a similar way that I view my management style. Like I'm in a management position. I have very specific expectations that like we have to be doing certain things in our shift, in our week, however you want to break up, the business cycle. But at the same time, I'm also very laissez-faire. Like we have to be doing things, but I don't care if you're doing things your way. We just have to be getting it done. And so I approach parenting in a similar way. And like I have always been in all of my management positions, I've always been considered kind of a hard ass boss, but I've also been considered a boss that everybody really likes and respects, because I'm not going to get onto you for dumb shit. I'm going to allow you to do your job, and I expect you to do it well, but I'm not going to like stand over your shoulder and force you to do it. I just expect that you're going to get it done, and then it's up to you to deliver. And I kind of approach parenting from a similar way. I'm not going to tell you exactly where everything in your room needs to be, But if your room is not up to a cleanliness standard that I expect, then you're going to go do it again, and you're going to go do it again. And in my son's case, you're going to continue to do it until like you don't have time to do anything other than that, because you won't get it up to that standard. But like, I'm not going to explicitly tell you A, B, C, and D, this is what you have to do. You know what has to be done, and as long as you get it done, that's what I expect. And that's both, my management style and my parenting style. Like, what's expected. Let's make it happen. And Mark I think Mark kind of approaches, like, that's kind of what he was talking about with the way he handled the youth in the homes that he's worked in, is like, they need structure and they need to know what's expected of them, but you also have to give them the freedom to deliver on that expectation.
Yeah. So, in hearing you guys, and this is I guess a narrative or a vein that I've been trying to kind of run through my shows a little bit, and that's why maybe I was pushing you guys a little bit on some of the stuff earlier. But it, and also about like the removing of people, or when I heard you, Mark, and even like Justin right now, kind of talking a little bit, it's like y'all's own little mini culture with each individual. You have a little mini culture that you've created with each individual there. But in hearing you talk about, you got to give them freedom to do that, or freedom of space a little bit. That to me is the natural balance of left and right. That if you have a nice balance between left and right, you can create or at least advance in a positive way. Now, I can be wrong, and maybe right now we would agree. We would maybe say like, oh, there's too much left in society or too much. Okay, but you can still have these balances with individuals. So, just listening to you guys talk about that, it's nice. So, I'm trying to not say, but like a little bit is that, I don't want to be the guy that says, oh, like, kick out all of the left, because I think we all have inclinations to the left in us, a little bit. But, I guess it depends on how you play them out with the state. If you're close to the state and all that, then I guess you take advantage of that. I don't know if that resonates a little bit, but these little mini cultures you guys create with your people, with your children, with your spouse, with all, these. Okay, well, my style has always been to have a balance between both sides that you can have, and I find value in that. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that we've really had like a left-wing society culture in, I guess, the world at large since like maybe, it's been a long time. So one of the like Reformation, like this is how far back this goes, or like the return of like democracy with all the revolutions that took place. And I talk about using democracy too, which is, I think I consider democracy to be a left-wing tool. But if I use it, like, it's going to be like super localized. But anyways, I guess one reason that I didn't like harp on being right-wing so much is because of how far that pendulum like has swung to where like neoconservatives are considered right-wing, when even like 50, 100 years ago, they would have been complete leftist, right? So this is like how, when I talk about the left, it's, there are some people who are exempted from that, right? Like there's these sort of blue dog Democrats, these union people who really, they want like socialized healthcare, right? But they don't want me to be forced to take a certain shot in order to take care of myself or my family or whatever. Like these people I can get along with. But when I'm talking about left, like I'm just talking about like the whole, I want to say like environment in which we live. Like I think we need to get away from this whole open society idea, this unconstrained vision thing. This is why I like that we're talking a lot about like family and smaller communities, because that is at this point in time like not left-wing at all, because like the whole left-wing view, broadly speaking, is that we're all sharing the same world together. And we see how that goes, where we've got activists caring more about like starving kids in Africa than they do their own family. Like this is what that unconstrained versus the constrained view brings about. And that's not to say I don't care about starving kids in Africa, but I care more about the one that is starving, like in my own home. And this is how I view like the right left dichotomy right now, whereas, or specifically like right wing is more constrained, it's focused homeward and inward, more localized order and whatnot. And you see this within like rural communities in certain states here, as opposed to like people in Maine super upset that Texas passed a recent like abortion law. Like this, this is something I want to get away from. And it's mostly the left that's more concerned about abortion happening or abortion not happening, in this case, 1,000 miles away from them, when they should really just be focused on their own community.
Justin, you're going to say something?
Yeah. So like when you're talking about maybe forcing people out or kicking people out, stuff like that, like the forcible removal, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I am kind of a fan of Hoppian principles in that manner, but I more prefer the ideal of you create your community and your culture, and then those people just don't want to stay. And that's kind of what you're seeing with, there are a lot of, for lack of a better way of putting it, there are a lot of exoduses that are happening currently across the country. But what you're seeing is these people are leaving areas, and they're still like-minded people that are unhappy with where they are. And so they're leaving these areas and they're still grouping themselves together. Like you're seeing a lot of Californians who are coming to Austin and Houston. You're seeing a lot of New Yorkers who are going to specific parts of Florida. Like they're like-minded individuals who are in a position that they don't like, and they don't like what they're seeing. And, you know, to some extent that is because of the policies of California. That is because of the policies of New York that are pushing these people out. They are kind of creating that culture and that community, and people are naturally leaving that because they don't want to be a part of it. So that's more what I think of in terms of like pushing people out. Is it's not physically removing them, but it's creating that community and that culture that they don't want to be a part of it, and they know that they don't. And so like now, obviously, if that person chooses to stay and they choose to be a disruptive force, then you may be left with the option that you have to forcibly remove them. But the ideal is that you create this community and this culture that the people who aren't a part of that choose to leave on their own. And like I said, that's what you're seeing. You know, I bet you you're in San Antonio, so you're not that far away. I bet you if you go to Austin, a lot of the new Austinites are a lot of like-minded former Californians. Certain parts of Florida, if you go to it, there are a lot of very like-minded former New Yorkers. And not to say that that's bad, that's a good thing. That's the communities are kind of reforming themselves and hopefully learning from the mistakes that, you know, kind of pushed them out of where they were previously. But who knows? You know, like that's to be seen. But that's where I kind of think the natural course of humanity needs to play itself out. When government starts getting involved and starts forcing these newly developing communities to do things in a certain way, like if all of these, you know, Californians who have come to Austin start doing things a California way, and the Texas governor, whoever that may end up being, tries to shut that down, that is a artificial imposition that's being put on those people. You're going to create friction, you're going to create tension, you're going to create a bigger problem than what it would be if it were allowed to just kind of play itself out. And so that's kind of the idea of the 10,000 Liechtensteins. Like, we don't want it to be a state by state level. You don't want it to be a county by county level. Like, it should be town to town, little tiny, my subdivision and that subdivision and that subdivision. and we do our thing the way we do our thing, and we interact with each other like the boroughs of New York that I was talking about earlier. Like, we have our ways that we do it, and we do it together, but we do it apart as well, and let nature kind of smooth out the rough edges as they kind of blend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, makes perfect sense. So yeah, man, thank you guys for coming on. I hope we created a little mini culture here of respect and having everyone's ideas kind of flow freely. This would be the first time I say this because it's starting to get a little bit of traction, but I hope you guys can make it out to my home on Cinco de Mayo weekend. I think I'm going to be having an event here with maybe a bunch of Matt Erickson just moved to San Antonio. Buck Johnson's nearby. Andrew from Popular Liberty has agreed. Pete Q said heavy yes. So I'm thinking of having an event here. And I hope you guys can make it out, and we'll eat some carne asada, some cabrito, drink some beers, and I really want to hear y'all's Mexican jokes, man. I gotta hear them, man. I got to hear them, man. So I know with them drinks we get those out of you guys, man. But thank you for coming on. Can you please, Justin? Can you talk about the stuff that you got going on? Then Mark, and then talk about y'all's show together, please.
Yeah, so you can check me out at Fact Check This Podcast. It's on any of the podcatchers, YouTube from time to time, Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute. And then all the shows that I work for, Lions of Liberty, Counterflow with Buck Johnson, Carlos's show, Los Libertinos, Peddling Fiction. I actually co-host Peddling Fiction these days, so that's been a lot of fun. Always Andy's Mom and The Paradox, which are a couple from up in Mark's neck of the wood, Michigan, who they each do their own show, and they approach different topics from different angles that are not political at all, and you should really check both of those out. And then there's a whole bunch of others. I'll have to put together an official list of all the shows that I'm working for one of these days. What
do you got going on, Mark? What do you got?
Yeah, The Emergent on Substack. So just go to markmetz.substack.com. There you'll find political commentary, political essays, even some short story fiction stuff. My thoughts inside the head of inside my own mind, which is sometimes rambling, and hopefully once I push publish, it's fairly easy to understand. And then at Real Mark Metz on Twitter. Sometimes I disappear for 2 to 3 days and then come back and tweet something out, and maybe it gains traction, maybe it gets 2 likes, but you can follow me there too.
And what's in my mind. And what do you guys have going on for the morning after? What's coming up?
Tomorrow morning we have a show.
So when does it play? It plays
every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
8:30 a.m.
8:30 a.m.
or 8:30 a.m. Eastern and 7:30 Central because most of Carlos's audience is in Texas, so they're going to be on normal people time, not y'all's fast time.
All right, perfect, man. So yeah, if you guys want my audience out there, you guys want to hear some cool white vatos just talk some shit and have fun, definitely tune in to the morning after. They've had me on before. It was a good time. So yeah, man, thank you guys for coming on, and I hope you feel I respected y'all's time, and hopefully we could do it again.
It was excellent. Thank you, Carlos.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Carlos.
Peace. Cool, man. Cool. Yeah. So cool. We're all good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes.
Fun.
All right. So
that sounds cool. Your get together. It's kind of far for me, but I've been to San Antonio twice and I loved it. So
yeah, man. I'm gonna try to do it. So Cinco de Mayo weekend is also like the big boxing fight nights. So okay. so it's always Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence, which is September 6th. So I'm trying to give value to the people, I'll give them a bag of Paloma Verde products. I'm gonna feed them badass. They get to watch a $75 pay-per-view, and we all get to hang out and stuff. And maybe if everybody's feeling good, we can probably play both types of football, man. I've always been athletic. I'm a short guy, but I can play, So yeah, we could play some regular football and then some other football. It's meant to be all positive and good, and about the whole stuff about creating a culture and creating a thing. So if it's a culture where we can have this event every Cinco de Mayo where it's fun for all this, it would create a culture outside of my normal San Antonio area, you know, it'd have people from coming out of town, but
Yeah.
you know, that's still positive shit, you know. So yeah, man.
Yeah,
and,
no, that's
you know,
cool.
I'm gonna try to get the details going, but I did reach out to what's his name, that vato, Curtis Yarvin, to be the headliner, but I don't know if he's gonna say yes or no. But if I can get
That'd be nice.
if I can get him out of here, man, I think that'd be pretty cool. I interacted with him once, and I think he might like to. He had said, "Hey, that's a cool house you have back there," and so now if I invite him back, I'll be like, "Yeah, man, remember, like, you know, put on your soccer shoes to see what you got."
That'd be sweet.
All right, man, guys. Yeah, thank you, guys. Peace.
All right, see you, man.
Later.
Later.